Welcome to our Two Best Friends podcast. Sasrikal, my name is Attar and I am running very low on my iron. And I'm going to be aspiring to be a comedian today to make sure that I pass through and strive through today's topic with smile and with some grace without
And some
forgetting anything to
energy.
add.
Yeah, because I can't. Yeah, like your iron really sounds low because I can't hear you properly. I've got to say.
Is it? Oh my God.
Um, yes, but hi, this is Maneesha, and for me, I would say I was thinking. So I'm getting a tattoo, and I was like, recently in the last few years, I've had this thing that every city that makes an impact on me, wherever I go traveling, I get a tattoo from there. So that's my thing. So now I am in a new city, and I'm gonna get a tattoo done in the next few days, which I'm very excited about.
So is that tattoo going to be relevant to the city that you
The
travel?
No, I mean it can be, I don't think about it as much, but it just has to be in the space and most likely it is relevant. It has been, but sometimes I just find what gives me joy and I just get it done.
So, is this your like a souvenir magnet, but on your body with a needle and
Yes, it's
permanent?
my souvenir magnet on my body.
Where anyone who is new to our podcast, so we discuss any issues, any concerns that we millennials go through, migrants, women, what more,
Brown
Nisha?
women. Yeah, yeah.
Perimenopausal, women who are lacking iron, who are lacking all the minerals. We talk all about it on this podcast. So you can expect anything and everything on this.
Yes.
So tag along on our little journey. But to begin with, let's start with a silver lining. Manisha.
Yes. For me, my silver lining would be um I think it was last night, and I was sitting outside. We'd gone out, and I was actually sitting by myself for a while and looking at the water. I was at a beach, and I kind of realized just sitting in that space that I like my own company,
No,
and
you don't.
I do, I enjoy it. I
Yeah,
do enjoy it, and it was a really good. It was a good kind of reflection or awareness of myself because I'm like, oh, I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying being myself and just not doing anything, no phone, no nothing, but just myself and looking out and listening to my. And it was really good. Like it was a not a, it was a positive experience and it was a good thing because I think a lot of times we do run away from ourselves. But being able to sit silently with myself was really good. And I was thinking about that movie Jab We Met and where Kareena Kapoor says मुझे अपनी कंपनी बहुत पसंद है तो आई वाज लाइक मुझे अपनी कंपनी बहुत पसंद है तो
yeah,
that was my silver lining more so that I am comfortable and just sitting and being and not feeling pressured that I have to have a conversation with something
yeah.
or look at my phone or look at something or read a book just sit there that's it.
Yeah, it is actually a very good feeling. Sometimes I get that fleeting feeling of like, you know what? I am so self-critical. There are parts of me that I absolutely cannot stand myself, but still, I'm alright. I'm pretty good. I love being on my own by myself. I don't mind what others think. I'm just happy and content in that moment, and that's a beautiful feeling. I guess that's what the
Yeah.
gratitude is in that moment, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So yeah, so that was the moment and that was a good moment. What about you? What's your silver lining for this week?
My silver lining is that I have started or say picked up an old hobby. I've started dancing, so started learning Kathak. And when I told my mom, because for Kathak for grown-ups you have to have a certain types of ghungroos. And when I used to learn in my childhood, I used to have those ghungroos. They were like the grown-up ghungroos, which my mom had kept in like a safe. And our house in Chandigarh is so prone to like people breaking in. And my mom said, like, when I asked her, like, oh, where are my ghungroos? Because this time when I come around, I'm going to take them with me for my
Yeah.
classes. And she was like, oh, so many times people broke in, and the first thing I would do is check the ghungroos if they're still there.
Oh, she's so cute.
Oh, well, that's
Oh,
so
that's
nice. And
beautiful.
she was so happy. She was like, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, my first class was so overwhelming because I was thrown into the deep end of like people who had been practicing and doing it for like years. And
Yeah.
me, I was just like with a deer with like headlights, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to continue it because I was so overwhelmed. So I was like, what's the point of telling anyone if I'm not even going to continue? But I loved this week's class. The group that I'm doing it with, it's a mixed aged and gender group. So fun, beautiful people, and everybody reassuring me, oh, you will be fine, and that's okay. The first few classes are hard, but you're going to be fine. It's like the community that it formed. So I
Yeah.
felt like belonged. And when I told my mom, and my mom was so happy, she was like, this has made me so happy. That's something I always wanted you to do. And I'm like,
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. And it's such a good thing. Just something like, dance. Like, but like I love dancing, but I'm not a very organized dancer personally. But I do. Like, I think, and I think a lot of South Asian people would learn some kind of dancing or something. It's like I've learned Kathak as a child as well. And it's good to reconnect to that because I think it's that one is just of course the group and stuff, but also living in another country. I feel like it's another way to connect to your that cultural connection and the performances and everything. And it's amazing. So it's beautiful that you've actually done that and going ahead
yeah.
with it.
Yeah, so that was my silver lining, my mom's reaction. It felt like I made her happy because you know how we live here and our parents are back home in India.
Yeah,
There are very less moments or very brief moments that I feel like, oh, not so much with you. I think you're a very good and responsible daughter. I feel like
well, I'm the only one.
yes, so everything falls on you. I feel like I'm a bit spoiled. I am the youngest of four, so I feel like I get away with a lot more than I think what you can. So for my mom, if I give her a call for 2 or 3 consecutive days, that's made her week. That's how low bar is, and I'm so ashamed of it. But that's how low the bar is. So for me to tell her that and for her to be so happy, it made me genuinely very happy.
That's
But yeah,
amazing. And I think that is such a good segue into what we're going to be talking about today, which is about aging parents. And, we're in that millennial stage where a lot of us are facing with this next thing in our life, which is our parents are aging, right? Which means their dependability on us, or what, there are a lot of things that you're more involved with your parents. Maybe you haven't been till now in decision making or doing things and stuff, which is the next thing, and concerns about them. How are they going to be? What's going to happen? And I think that's why I thought, like you and me have different experiences of aging parents, but also we both do live in a different country to our parents, which is another ball game altogether. But also, I think a different country, if you're in a different city or anything like that, it's always a thing. Especially if I think someone who comes from that, South Asian or brown or any kind of, I guess, spaces where family units have been strong, not stronger, but just have been one of those things that. That collective
yeah,
family units,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I think and it could be Asian, could be a lot of European countries, could be other countries as well. I know in Aboriginal culture also it's a collective
yeah,
families, and also there I think you feel that responsibility, that thought a lot more. So we wanted to talk about it, about um, what is our experience of it, and also what does it look like, what are some of the things we feel and stuff. So I think that is what we're going to be covering
yeah.
today.
And it's
I
a
think
very
one of the
sensitive
things,
topic. Yeah. It's a
yeah,
very
yeah,
sensitive topic because we all feel in it different ways. And as you say, like our experiences are so different. Me being one of four, you being single child, so many emotions that goes through regardless of any time. And even I feel like that has been the experience over the years as well. It's not just
yes.
now that they're aging, it's been over the years. I think it starts from the decision when we made that we are going to migrate to another country, and parents would not want to come and live here permanently, or the situation doesn't allow, or their choice is to stay back. That impacts quite gravely.
It does, but I feel like over the recent years, at least for me. So, for example, we do have shared experiences where we both lost our fathers really young, right?
Yeah.
Which makes, like, I think when they're two parents, it's a different thing to one parent as well. But I think losing our fathers meant that there was only one parent to kind of, support, but also more concerns, because I
Yeah.
feel like when you have two, there are two of them together
Mm.
at some point, and that helps. But I think absolutely, and I feel like at least in our spaces, we were talking about this, where it's almost a there is this kind of understanding where parents are like, okay, so we have invested in you. Now, when you were growing up, da, 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 now you invest in us, right?
Yeah.
It's not something they're asking you to do, but it's an understanding. And I feel like even as a daughter, or as like as a child, I will not have it any other way. Like, I can't think about it,
Mm.
right? I can't think about not like just letting my mom be, or like letting her just do like not do whatever, but just be anywhere, or there's a lot of like responsibility that I feel, regardless of what is being said or not.
Yeah. 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 And you're very right. Having losing our parents, like fathers, that makes a great impact because they have lost their companions, and that could shape up, especially the old age. I feel like that's when you need the companion the most, and when they've lost it, there is a greater void that a child cannot fill in. And you're very right. It is kind of expected, not that it's said outright, but some units that they have kids is in expectation of being looked after at the elder age, especially in North India or not in that community, not as much as in the South India, where men are given more of like a male child is given more importance because you have to have them because they are the ones who are going to look after the aging parents, not so much the daughters. Um, Again, I don't have that experience, but you do with your husband. He's the only male child and living abroad. That must put like a different level of expectations and guilt and how to manage, because with the age more of the realities kick in, where the health situations kick in. You want to
Oh,
be present,
absolutely.
and
and I,
even
and
not being present can also kick on some other
yeah.
things.
And I think he's lucky, and I say that all the time, that he has two other sisters, right?
Yeah.
Because physically, yes, there is that kind of thing about, you're the male and you have to take care of your parents and stuff like that. And maybe for the parents that is a thing, but I
Mm.
would say for him, the fact that he has his two sisters in a country that his parents are, that's a blessing, right?
Yeah.
I don't have that blessing in my life. And
Yeah.
of course, he goes through his own guilt of not being there. And there's been a lot of times where he's felt like, oh my God, my age is going to be my last time, right?
Mm.
Interestingly, and I think that is what it is. Like, it is that guilt, but I'm also like, for me, I think, and that is my understanding of losing my parent, one of my parents young, is I'm like, at some point, I know it's going to hurt the day they're not there, but I also know, like live the time you're there with them now, because make it quality now, right? When you're with them, rather than thinking of that future when you may not be there when they are not there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or the moment they're not there, because that can happen at any moment. It's happened with me where I just went to my university or came to Australia, and in 8 months my father wasn't there, and it was a very sudden thing.
Yeah.
So I think it is almost like live the quality now, forget about what's going to happen in future, right? Do what you can. And I think that's me. But I also want to say that I feel like in my younger years in Australia, didn't think about it. You
Mm.
parents are like those people who do everything for you. You don't think about doing things for them. But I, because of my parents, my mom also she's one, like, depend based compared to other people my age, my mom is much older,
Mm.
in that kind of,
Yeah.
and I have seen her, but suddenly I can see that shift, where you can see the shift in their own physical energy.
Yeah.
And like, I can, that didn't happen until some years ago, and now there's a sudden shift, and now you feel like, okay, right,
Yeah, I was
there is a
going to
shift in
ask you
their kind of
actually.
energy levels and everything.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, when did you feel like, oh shit, they're aging, like they're like quite rapidly aging? When did you feel the difference that that they
I mean,
all.
my mom is about almost 70 something, but I
Mm,
think in the last few years, like 4, 5 years, like I not four, yeah, like my son, I feel like when my son was there, when he was born, my mother was still, and she's a very energetic
yes,
woman. She still is. She has a lot of
I can
energy.
vouch
She's
for that.
brilliant. But
Yeah,
I can see the difference,
yeah.
right? And I where she gets tired and she needs a space and stuff. And it's almost like you can send, like, I live in another country, and like, I it's funny how you said, I was just thinking when you said about calling your mom, and I'm like, oops, I haven't spoken to her for like a few days or more than
Few
that, but we
days, oh
connected
God.
online and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But there is that constant thing in your background, about, I don't know if it's guilt though, right? It's almost like, for me at least, it's almost like this. It's not guilt, like I've moved away from the guilt point personally for me, because I'm like, I can't, I am doing my best, right? In at least in my space, like I'm doing my best connecting with her, especially also with, like, with my partner's parent as well, right?
Hmm.
This is the best I can do, and I do. Like, it's almost like whatever they say, I'm like, yeah, go for it. You want to do this, do that. You know, support them in their ventures, their life, and whatever is possible. But that's kind of it. Like, and personally for me, it's the, let's connect today now, because I don't know what it is there tomorrow. And I live with that with both, all three sets of parents.
Yeah.
Also, my next thing is almost like, I think another accepted thing is, if something happens to either or and they have to live with us, it's accepted. I'm
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
bhai, mata bachchi hogi to hogi,
Huh.
but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, but that is, I would not have said that a few years back.
Hmm.
I would
Yeah.
not have. But I think that is a change I have had in my life, because I can see all our parents aging rapidly and they're needing that support. And it's like, why not?
Yeah.
Right?
And that's also the
It's okay.
emotional change within ourselves and even the maturity within ourselves, that now we are starting to look more outward than inward. That not
Yeah.
us, but and the I see it as that they've done so much. I always take the relationship of a parent and child as a cycle of life, where the parent always does more for the child than child can do for the parent.
Oh, absolutely.
However, they are going to give to their children, and their children are never going to reciprocate the same love. So, hence, the children are then going to give it to their children. So, it's
Hmm.
sort of like the flow of love that never fills your cup, but it fills your children's. So, I just see, I think of that the more love I give to my child, is my way of giving to my parent. I don't know if that is the right analogy, but maybe that helps me to reduce my guilt. I'm like, this
Yeah.
is,
I think it does. But also, I agree with you, right?
yeah,
Because in the end, like, if you think about a child, right? We both are parents, and I feel like children are, when you give birth to a child, it's almost like it's a flowing river,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly.
You pass it on and it flows, and that's it. There
Yeah.
is no comparison to it.
Hmm.
In reality, there is only, you can't really expect that river to flow back to you.
No, it
You
never does.
have
It
to
can
let it go.
never, it just can
No,
never do that.
it's the same with up, and it's the same, but it's almost like, yeah, like that's it. And I think, like, for example, but with parents, right? Like, for example, with my parent, my mother, I think I fight with her the most as well. Like, when we are in the same room, it's crazy,
Hmm.
right? We fight with each other, da, da, da. But I also, and maybe it's because I've lost a parent, I almost feel like I know what it would be if she's not there, at least for me.
Oh,
Like, I'm like, she's my only other living, like a
yeah,
parent, and my
yeah,
connection to this space, almost that.
yes.
um so it's a big thing.
Oh, 100%. Mole, you don't have a sibling and you feel that. I have siblings and I still feel that. I
Yeah.
feel that if my mom's not around, I'll be an orphan. And
Yeah.
doesn't matter how less I speak to her or how much I speak to her, that still does not sit well. I've seen my
Yeah.
grandfather, he lived until mid 90s, and my Tayaji, Chachaji, all the uncles, they looked after him. They were in their mid 60s, 70s. My Tayaji is quite elderly as well. He used to give his best to my grandfather. But at his death, they were sad that they've lost the
Yeah.
connection to the space, as you say. And that just never goes away at any age. And I get very scared that if something happens to my mom, I am not ever going to have an outlet to let my frustration out, because nobody is as accommodating as your parent.
No
Nobody,
one is.
nobody is.
No one gets. I was actually saying that to someone where I was saying there is no one except your parent in this world who you can fight with,
Yeah,
say the most nonsensical things, and after like a few hours you'd be like, both of you forgotten about it and moved on.
yeah.
There is
Like,
no
what?
one else in
No,
this world,
no, no.
right? And it is true, and I agree. I think it's that, and it's, I think that unconditional love at some point, I feel like that can only happen between parents and kids at some point, if you're a half decent parent.
I know,
um,
and we are quite pragmatic about it. And just thinking about that thought brings up like so many emotions and tears in
it
me that
is,
I
it's
cannot even
so,
cry.
yeah,
But I feel like dwelling up, thinking that when she's not there, the world is not going to be the same. I sometimes
yeah,
call her
yeah.
and I say to her, I was like, "Mom, if something happens to you, who's going to get my such and such thing stitched?" And she's like, "Is that all wrong to you?" I'm like, "No, but in perspective,
That's your pragmatic self just telling her that you love her in a different way.
that's
But it is
correct."
true, right? It is that kind of, yeah, so it is a concern. Like it's something that's there in the back of the mind. Like, what is, what is that going to look like? And it is an ongoing thing. Like, at least for me, as much as you bring up that kid, you also have your parents, you have the parents, like, अब वो एक दूसरी country में है, what is happening, how can you suppose if something happens, you feel concerned, you go up and down, your emotions
Yeah,
go up and down, you sometimes feel very helpless as well. Like there have been
yeah.
moments I felt very helpless,
Hmm.
where I'm like, shit, I can't do anything, my mother is there and I cannot do anything in this moment, because I'll call a few people, but I'm not there, right?
No.
I can't be there for whatever reason, and it's a very helpless moment, when that happens.
My my like a another person in my dance class, she is in her, I would say, late 50s or early 60s. She's just been back from India, and she was saying that her mum is unwell. She spent about 2 months with her. She's fine, she's out of the hospital, but you never know when she has to go back. And in my head I'm like, wow, this just never ends. Once it starts, once the realization hits for you that your parents are aging, that's it. There is no end to it until the day. And that's very sad. Not sad as in like sad that you have to take care of them, sad that you have to live with that. Because when our fathers passed away, there was one reality that I made peace with, that when you move overseas, you just have to accept the fact that you may not be able to see your parents. Like, even for me, I come from the background where the cremation has to happen within certain number of hours. So I didn't even get to see my dad for the last time. Like,
Yeah,
nothing. I
yeah.
was just there for his ashes. So there is a chance that I may not even see the parent one last time. So that's a sacrifice that you make when you choose to come so far away from them.
Yeah, yeah. But the reality is, you could be in any part of the city, country, in the same
Yeah.
country, and not do that either. So, but yeah, I agree, and it is a reality that I think everyone who migrates to another city feels it. If you're not in the same city as your family, as your parents, like it's you always think, man, what's gonna happen? But it's also, yeah, like from a, I guess from a pragmat, but also I feel like the other thing is, I mean, it's funny, like I can see the shift now as well, where it is always hard to get your parents to agree to whatever you want, like whatever you say, because you're a kid in front of their
Oh my
eyes.
God. Can I
But I can
actually?
see the shift now, and like not everything, but I at least I can make more decisions in my mother's house than I've ever been able to,
No.
because she'll still kind of, but it's such a hard battle still.
Oh, dude, I still can't drink coffee in front of my mom. I still
Yeah,
can't. I have to listen to 100 things. It was last year. I was using my phone for work, and my mom's like, "Sara, then phone fadi rakh di hai, phone uchhak." And I was like, "Ma, I'm working." But she
yeah,
forgot. For
yeah,
them, we are kids who are on their phones, and that needs to be told off. So that is
yeah, yeah.
ongoing. That's always going to be ongoing.
Yeah, 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 it is. It is. And I think it is. And I think it's an ongoing thing, everyone, in the end there'll be different people. Sometimes you don't see your family for years, sometimes you see them every month, but this concern and these thoughts are something I feel like as a millennial,
Hmm.
almost every millennial that I can think of would go through, right?
Yes.
If you have your
Yes.
parents who are still alive, that concern about, yes, they're aging, what's happening, where are they going. Like for me, my mother, I remember for 10 years she almost was like in a lot of different spaces. And over the years I could see the impact. Like I was like, she was okay, but I was like, no, this is not working out. Like
Hmm.
for you, for us, nobody. And
Yeah.
in the end, I eventually found a really amazing place, because the other thing is about retirement living or aged care living in India, for example. It's brings so much stigma,
Yeah.
right? Like and we went through our own thing where being a single woman, for
Hmm.
her, everyone wants, like, a lot of times it's also about dictating what she's doing when she was in, and finding the right place was such a hard thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because her daughter's not there, daughter's only there, and she's nothing. So it was almost such a big process. But even with the families, extended family, everyone be like, why are you going there? Why can't you buy your own house? And it's like, what's the point of
Yeah.
living in a lone house and trying to get everything sorted? Doesn't make
Because
sense.
they need community. Everybody needs community where they can get out, talk to each other, and spend some time and stimulate their mind. Sitting
Oh
in a
yeah, and
cave
it's
and there.
just, financially, because but then parents are like, oh my god, it's such a big financial burden on you, and I'm like, man, in the end, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of my best decisions of my life for my parent,
Yeah.
trying to find the right place for her and just sticking with it,
Hmm.
because that relieves so much pressure from my brains,
Yeah.
right? I know she's living the quality life that she needs in her life right now, has the support, and that is such an important thing.
Hmm.
And I think that is the other thing, that opportunity to have, if you can have spaces rather than getting stuck with, oh my God, what are people going to say? What is the world going to
Hmm.
say? Finding the right space that fits for your parent, if that where they're at is not working out.
Absolutely. And sometimes it can change all the time as well. Like
Oh,
for
yeah.
some parents, if they have kids and if they want to go around between them, if whatever works, as long as they are still respected and loved and they feel that they're still in control of their decision, I think that would float the boat
Yeah,
that time.
yeah. But it is. I feel like those that decision making, I don't know if you're gonna feel it now, but I think that is something that's gonna happen now. The decision making is going to come to you and your siblings a lot rather than parent making that decision, because then you're like, no. This because a lot of things that go on for them as well, concern about you kids, and they're trying to protect you and
Yeah.
all that. And it's like, no, bro, it's not working. I have to make the decision because this is not working out.
Absolutely. No, I'm very privileged in that way, that I don't have to do that. I don't know how you do it, Manisha, because I feel like these decisions are so emotional. I don't have to do it because I have older siblings. My brother, I'm like, well, they wanted a male. You're the male. You're the son. Make the decisions. You do
Go for
them.
it.
So what
Yeah.
I try to do is I try to be there for my siblings for their emotional support when they need to vent out, I'm there, but I don't think I can actually do that decision making. I don't think
Yeah.
I may come across quite pragmatic, but I can't. I feel like I'm too emotionally weak to make any such decision. I cannot even think about it. Like I struggled so much with this topic because I felt like I have no strong feelings about it. I just don't, because I get very emotional in my heart when I have to think about it. It's just too much.
That is strong feelings, you know that, right?
Is it?
The fact that you can't even talk about it and you're feeling all these emotions means you have very strong feelings about it.
Yeah,
Like,
but
about your parent and what it is and what, how it works. And I know you're saying you don't, but actually that is part of
yeah,
that process, and that, that build up in our own hearts about, oh my God, what is going to happen? What
yeah,
is it going to look like? Because your mom and like even both our parents are at a similar age level. So I know what, what that
yeah.
looks like. And it is true. I think it is such a concerning thing. It's an ongoing thing that we do with also the negotiation. If you have a partner, what does that mean? If you're because I mean, for me, like we have three parents in between both of us, and
Mm.
they're all equally important.
Yeah,
How we negotiating that, how we working that, and that's the other part. Like,
yeah,
what does it look? And it depends on their own situations in their lives and what are their needs, and filling that in.
yeah.
Because but a lot of times I know a lot of sometimes women don't have that opportunity
Mm.
where one parent takes priority over the other, where if the male is and he has, and which is not okay,
Yeah.
right? Both sets of parents need that priority, need that love, need that, and depending on their needs,
Mm, mm.
it's not about one over the other.
Yeah, no,
But having that, but it's a negotiation, you know it's not never easy to live with your partner's parent. There are always things that happen. It's never easy to even live with your own parent
exactly.
or
It
whatever
just
that
never
means.
is. I don't think it's about parents. It's never easy to live with anyone. Just anyone,
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
lot of adjustment. I think you just have to accept about that adjustments and go with those. But I want to take
yeah.
this back to the last episode that we did of mom guilt.
Yeah.
That I feel like that's more, it's very important for mothers at even the young age when the kids are younger, to have their own life to some degree, to have their own choices, to have their own self where they can be themselves, they can have their own community, so they are not relying on the kids, so the kids know that, you know what, my parents are having their own time, and that's okay to do that. And if you have done that for years, then it's easier to take it forward in your older age. Recent discussion that I had with my mom was how to look after herself, and that's more important for our parents and even for us, because not so much for you, Manisha, but for my son, he's getting to the age, like in about like 5 6 years, he's going to have to take some responsibilities once he hit 18, 19, or 20 in some regard. And it's more important that we are looking after ourselves, parents are looking after themselves, so their health is important, they are in good shape as much as
Oh,
they can.
absolutely.
ये पकोड़े 10 बार चाय पीना, परोठे
Because it impacts, right? And not just that, but the mental health, right? Like if you think about it, and I'm talking specifically with my own experiences around me, a lot of moms have so many physical health issues, and a lot of that has been because they haven't taken care of themselves, they have never prioritized themselves, and also they have kept everything internal,
that's
right?
it.
Which means they are at the, and then the second thing is the emotional connection. A lot of sometimes relying on the kids, which is not the only, you got to go beyond that, you got to do what is, and that is, yeah, so it's a bit of a process.
Oh, today when I was doing deadlift, I had no iron, but I lifted iron. That's why probably I was drained. But when I was lifting, doing deadlifts, all the time I was thinking, this is going to help me in my old age. This is going to be easier to
Yeah,
get. So
so
sometimes
take right
take
decisions.
right decisions.
I don't know
Yeah.
how we went from aging parents to us aging, by the way,
No, it is.
but
But that's also important for aging parents to not be stubborn and listen to the kids and not be so set in their own ways that they think that they are still the in charge of the family. They are still the head of the family, definitely. But the things have changed, technology have changed. Let the kids make the right decisions for them. And for once, just let it go with that decision making. And
yeah,
probably that would be
yeah,
easier for everyone. Because when the parents have health issues, you have to deal with their stubbornness, you have to deal with their health. It just makes the another different cocktail of issues.
yeah, but it's never easy because
Never
they're your
easy.
kids, right?
Oh,
Parents are never gonna. It is a gradual process. I see that in my own life where my mom started to more kind of, she will kind of agree to what I say,
mm,
but it's still not easy. Just depends on her where she's at. But same for me, right? How I put it and stuff. But it is, and I think it's a bit of a negotiation, like you almost like how you negotiate with your kids,
yeah.
especially when they grow up to a certain age.
Mm.
It's the same thing with your parents, and but it is something that sometimes people make big decisions, big thoughts happen. It's very emotional. I don't think there's any right and wrong way again, because whatever time you spend with your parent, you will still go through some kind of like, oh my god, did I do enough, did I call them enough, did I speak to them enough, and it's never going to be
No,
enough.
even I feel like thinking and talking and listening about all the feedback, like how should spend more time, quality time with the parents, even that is so much of a mental toll. Do the best you can do, even in their presence. If there is no conversation happening, that's fine. There shouldn't be that mental load of trying to make memories because they're aging. Just not that. It should just be a space of where everyone can be themselves rather than trying to be like, oh
But
yeah,
I don't think, like, I personally think, like, for example, like, I went traveling with my mom and everything. She's not even like, she's like, I'm not even a big fan of traveling. And I get it. Like, maybe at that point
yeah,
you won't be,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I'm like, yeah, like she would rather just us sit in the same space, and that, like,
yeah,
I feel like their needs are quite different to what we think as quality time or making memories or whatever. Like, it's just being, or it's just that phone call or whatever, and that's it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's understanding their love language.
Yeah. And not trying too hard, I personally think.
Yeah,
Sometimes the guilt creates a lot of too
that's
hardness.
exactly.
And
That's what I was trying to
um,
say as well. That don't do too much out of guilt, because then that's not the right thing either. I know,
no,
like,
and it is. And I think it's a hard one, but we are trying our best in however way, do whatever you can, and that's it. Like, again, yeah, we've already said this last time, where guilt is actually a byproduct of shoulds and musts, which are, again, within our heads and within the society, and that's kind of it.
yes, and I think one of the best things that we do, or especially I do, is I talk to my sisters, and I talk to my friends. Debriefing, talking about it. Sometimes the issue is not even an issue, or it is a big issue. After talking, you listen to yourself, you listen your own words. It just opens up a different portal, and that's always a good thing. So always talk to your people, your community,
Yeah.
and let it out.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I remember, beginning of this year, there was something where I had to say to my mom about something, saying, no, you can't do this. It's not going to work for us. Da, da. And I went through such an emotional up and down at that time because I was feeling so guilty. I was like,
Yes,
oh my God, I said no to my mother. How is this going to work? What if what if something happens? And this is like, all these things I went through. And I remember speaking to Attar,
yeah,
and it's like, but you got to do, you being right, like, you being pragmatic in this sense, and makes sense. It's coming as an emotional thing from her end, but that's okay. And in the end, I realized, yeah, it is okay. Like, it's
mm,
fine. You can, but it's just so hard as this, again, I think, as an Indian daughter, maybe, I don't know, as a son, to say no
mm,
to your parent. It's not an easy thing. You can say no for small things, but if it comes to something where and you're like, oh, I don't know how to say this,
yeah. No,
because there
yeah,
is all that in your
exactly. But
head.
it comes down to the unconditional love. They're not even going to
Yeah.
hold it for too long. And even like
Yeah.
for ourselves, like I feel like one thing my mom says all the time is like, if you're happy, then I don't have to hear from you. If you are doing well, I don't have to have those phone calls. So sometimes I do think of that the least I have to do for her is be happy, and I can try to do that. That's so many times I just think about it, that if I'm going to sleep and I haven't been able to call her, I'm just like, oh, but today I've been happy, so she'll be fine. She'll be happy about it.
She's getting it. She's getting the
She's
energy.
getting the vibes there that I'm happy.
She's getting
No,
it.
she will hear it.
You're getting the vibes,
No,
mom.
she
We're
will
pretty good.
hear it if I'm not happy.
She will.
I
Yeah,
make
I
her do
agree.
prayers for me like crazy. So
Yes, I remember the last time you said that.
yeah,
But
but
cool.
yeah.
Nah, that's true. And, grateful that we are able to have that. It's hard, but just the fact that you have your parents, to be honest, like, there are times when I'm like, shit, I wish my dad was here, like,
Oh
for
yeah.
this and that. So that's another ball game altogether.
Actually, oh,
Not having that.
that's another very heavy topic. I opened another portal with my sister. I think 2 weeks ago, her and I, we were having discussion. We were like, how would have life been if Pitaji was still around?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
would it have looked like? And that conversation, we've never had such conversation since my dad passed away. And it's been like, what, almost 13, 14 years. We've never
yeah.
had that conversation. But when we did, we felt so different. And so like it was good, but yeah.
Yeah,
Man,
I mean,
it's
I do that with my kids in a different way. Like we talk about it, like, oh, what? Because I do keep him not alive, but I do talk about him because sometimes I feel like I don't enough, and that's
yeah.
another thing. Like I'm like, oh, I want him to be part of. So we talk about him and read random things, and but it is true, and I think that's another topic in itself. Losing a parent and what does that look like? But I think let's just talk about this and
I
finish it at that.
Man, I don't know if it was
Um,
my low irons, but this has left me very heavy.
it is, and I think just both need to just take some deep breaths. It's a very heavy topic, and for all of you who's listening as well, I know how heavy it is. So just take some deep breaths, eat something, and take care of yourself. And we will see you next
We
week.
will. Thank you for listening to us and watching us on YouTube. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.